What's up, everybody? Welcome to the No Scrubs Allowed podcast. We got producer Seal here. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, bud. How about yourself, Mike?
Doing all right. And it looks like sports are creeping back. We talked about how Bundesliga is back. We talked about how MMA is back. But now it looks like leagues are starting to work towards finishing their season or at least doing playoffs. The hockey, I think, already adopted the 24 playoff or team playoff thing. That's going to be pretty crazy. But I want to talk about the NBA because we talked about what it would look like being in Orlando and COVID and all that stuff. But now let's actually talk about it from a sports perspective. So it looks like it's going to happen in Orlando. How many teams is still yet to be decided, but it looks like there's a lot of traction for around 22 teams, either 20 to 22 teams. What do you think about that? Just right away, like dropping the teams off that really have no chance of making the playoffs and just trying to get this thing going.
I love it. I love the idea of having a couple teams trying to play to get into it as well, not just kind of setting a limit. We'll have the top 16 teams or whatever, or the top 14 teams, giving multiple teams a chance to get into that last seeds is a fantastic idea. I think I like that more so than the extended bracketing with a lot more teams, giving the extra teams a chance as well for that play-in spot is really cool. I really like that one.
So how would that work? So let's look at just what they could do. So the East is pretty much set already, which I know there was still 20 games or so, but Orlando's 5.5 games ahead of Washington, and it really doesn't look like anybody's there. But what they're looking at doing is potentially either bringing the same amount of people from both conferences, like 10 or so, or bringing the top 22, which is something I saw, would be anyone that's within 6 games. So that would be in the East, Washington, Charlotte, and Chicago would still have a chance. And then I think it's those guys. And then in the West, it would be everybody all the way down to Phoenix, which would be awesome for me, but we're not going to make the playoffs. So I don't know, but to be 6 games is pretty cool. Do you think that's unfair to bring in more people from the West? Do you think they should do just like top 10, top 11 from each conference, or should they do it within 6 games? Because in the East, these Detroit, Atlanta, these guys aren't going to make it.
Yeah, it's definitely – it needs to happen in the West. It doesn't – obviously, it should. Will it happen? I'm not sure. I don't see how they would be able to explain that, saying, yeah, we can have all these teams from the West, but the bottom 4 or 5 teams in the East don't get a shot at all.
Right.
So,
but
I wouldn't
why
mind.
They would say like 6 games. If you're 6 games out, and that knocks a lot of the East, and then they just say, sorry, East, you weren't good enough to be 6 games out.
Yeah, I would like something like that, but I feel like they're going to figure out a way to get Zion in the playoffs somehow.
Well, and that's another story because the Pelicans, since Zion came back, they were 10-19 in his 19 games, but they were also playing the toughest schedule in the NBA. Well, that's gone now. If you drop all of those easy teams, then every team is going to be playing, quote unquote, the toughest schedule. I don't know how the schedulers would make this thing happen, but Memphis is not going to have an easier schedule than New Orleans if all the bad teams are gone that Memphis was going to play. So I think that's definitely in their wheelhouse to get Zion in the playoffs. But they also don't want to drop Ja Morant out of the playoffs either. They want Lillard to be in the playoffs. So it's going to be –
Well, yeah, that's why I think they're going to have to extend it into a 20 to 22 like playoff kind of thing.
I don't know. I don't know how that will work, man. It's so crazy because the top 2 seeds are pretty much locked in. Honestly, they don't even need to have the Lakers and Bucks play if they don't want to. Obviously, they will because part of it is about money. But those guys are locked in. They really don't need the top 3 or 4 seeds in either conference to play. Yeah. Maybe Denver and Utah could switch positions, but outside of that, they really need to do maybe a little mini tournament to start with. But then again, you'd have the top seeds mad that they don't get to play and warm up and all these other things. So that's the logistical part, but it definitely looks like it's coming back. So how do you think it's going to shake out, at least from the playoffs? I think at least 20 teams are going to come back and play, but they're going to play some regular season games. Do you think they'll try to just have a 16-team best of 7 playoffs, or do you think there's going to be some sort of something? What do you think that is?
I feel like they're going to try to keep the playoffs the way they are, which is kind of crazy. I mean, could you imagine being the Phoenix Suns and having to get everybody together just to go lose 2 games real quick and then go back to a normalcy?
Right.
That's why I feel like it'd be easier just to make the playoffs like a 2022 team playoff for the ship and switch it up a little bit for this year and give all these teams that were going at it just to make the playoffs, let everybody get in there.
But then still, I mean, are you going to let the Knicks get in then? If you make it even for the East as it is to the West, like do the Knicks get to go in even though they're 21-45 just so that you can get the Kings in there? Like, I don't know how they're going to do that. Or would you throw out conferences and just take the best 20?
That's what I would do. It seems like this would be the perfect time to kind of implement a rule change of that nature at this point in time and kind of keep that as a mandate going further. It's going to happen eventually. We thought
you think so? You think in the future there will be no conference period?
I feel like I've been feeling like this for years, that we're just a couple years away from it happening. There's no reason, and more than ever, it's so
But how terrible would it be if the Magic had to face Portland in the first round? I mean, that's travel. That's a lot of travel, you know, and most of the time it's not going to be that bad if it's like even Indiana visiting Denver. That's not that big of a deal.
The biggest issue with it all, right, is the travel and stuff.
Absolutely, and that's why they don't want the East and the West, because if you get the Lakers Celtics matched up in round 1, then it's hard to do one game if they start getting to game 5, 6, and 7. So
yeah. But
travel's so much nicer now. I don't know how they do it. Maybe they would do the first round as a 2-3-2 kind of thing. If there's that much travel, potentially you might do it that way. But because as the playoffs move on and there's only 4 teams left, then the travel doesn't matter. People don't care.
Well, I mean, if we're planning on finishing the season in the Biodome bubble,
well, yeah, this year for sure it wouldn't matter.
Then, I mean, that's why I feel like there's no reason not to do it right now and implement it that way and just have these kind of play-in games and see where teams are going to be seeded and go from there.
Kind of like a summer league rules?
Yeah.
Play a couple weeks of seeding stuff and then just the tournament?
Yeah.
And you'd do 7 for the tournament? Would you do 5s? Which I know Adam Silver has said he wants 7s across the board. Adam Silver does not want to budge on that.
Yeah.
But
which is great. 7's the perfect number for basketball. You could really go 10 games in basketball. You're never really going to figure out. It's just who can get the better in 7. When you have 2 great teams going at it, it's just who can get to 4 first.
Yeah, if you did 9, it'd be game 9. If you did 11, it'd be game 11. It wouldn't matter.
Exactly. When you have these great teams that come up and play, I mean, some people run into the Warriors like the Cavs did, and it only went 5 games, but
yeah, but then it's the best team already.
And then sometimes it'll go the next year and it'll go 7 games, and we'll come back and get the greatest comeback in NBA history. But I feel like 7's a great number. I don't know why they can't shorten it this year. It's the competitiveness.
You don't think that the fans would be upset, which I know it's probably more about money, but do you think if the Rockets ended up upsetting the Lakers 3-2, like, do you think the Lakers fans would be pissed if they made it 5 instead of 7?
Yeah.
So
for sure. I mean,
that's got to be part of it.
Any fan base would definitely be in an uproar. But I mean,
you got to deal with it, right?
It is what it is. Everybody's target goal is 3. So get 3 wins and you move on. They had the same freaking thing to do. So
I think they'll definitely do 7 because now you don't even have to worry about travel. They could literally play every other day. They don't have to rest at all unless they just want to. So they could squeeze in best of 7 in the exact same amount of time, even shorter than they could normally do that. So
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely going to be spicy. It's I feel like it's going to be a little more intense too, because like we saw with the Last Dance, the way the practices were, with nobody really there. It's just grown men playing ball and trying to win. There's not going to be any of that flair stuff going on, just trying to get the crowd going. It's going to be putting the ball in the hoop and grown men playing basketball like in practices and pickup games minus the stripes out there ruining it.
How do you think it would affect? I keep picking him out because he's easy to pick on, but how do you think it would affect Harden's game if the refs don't have Houston fans yelling at them? And do you think the fouls would increase, decrease, stay the same with these refs?
Well, not even that. I feel like the fouls will decrease because they're going to be in a controlled environment, and it's just a known thing that Harden gets those dumb calls no matter where he goes, not even only in Houston, just wherever the guy plays, he gets those really silly, tacky fouls. And I don't think that's going to be the instance when we're all in this biodome and the whole NBA organization is there and all these refs, bosses, and all this stuff going on. They're going to be scrutinized even harder. So I don't even feel like it's going to be able to get to the point of where it was if you even breathe on James Harden when he shoots a three, you're getting a foul, or if you tap his elbow in any way, you're getting a foul. I feel like it's going to be able to – they're going to be a lot more willing to hold their air in and not blow the whistle.
But you don't think that has anything to do with not getting fan reaction, though? I think they're definitely scared sometimes to either blow the whistle one way or the other. And scared's the wrong word, but they're definitely swayed one way or the other by fans going nuts. Like when the fans are looking at the Jumbotron and they see a foul and they go crazy. I feel like, and I don't have proof, but I feel like maybe the next time down the floor you hear a whistle more often than not. And it's just, it feels like the fans really factored that in. So
yeah, the gimme back fouls.
Yeah, so I think that's going to happen as well, or not going to happen. Like you said, I think it'll be less. And that's going to benefit guys like LeBron, who can barrel into people and potentially not get anything. Or it could hurt him,
Maybe James Harden actually decides that he wants to try to make the ball every time he shoots instead of just drawing a foul and becomes an even better player.
Well, he'll be rested too, which that's the next point I want to talk about. These guys that are rested, James Harden was averaging 30 points a game. He needed rest. There's guys like if Portland ends up making it in, Nurkic and Collins are going to be back. Giannis is back. This rest, what team do you think it's the best benefit of rest?
Clippers. Nah. But real quick, how many games or how many days until Kawhi doesn't play a game because of workload management?
He won't play a single game in the regular season, but he'll play every playoff game. He'll be like, I need to load manage this regular season real quick.
I pull my back coming over here. My back hurts. It's a backache.
He might not even show up. He'll just say, call me when the playoffs start. I'll be here.
Yeah, but no, I think it's got to be the Lakers just because of how old their team is. You got LeBron, you got
But they were streaking, man. I feel like they might get a little rusty.
They'll be able to. I don't see LeBron and AD getting rusty, but I just feel like and as many roles players as they have, they definitely could use that rest.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of their energy came from the headband of Caruso.
I think, of course, the Pelicans still benefit from rest. I mean, Zion came back and they were starting to get into a groove, but anytime that a guy with an injury gets to rest a little bit longer, they were talking about at first he might not have a rookie season. They wanted to wait. Well, now they get the chance to wait, and maybe he'll be back even closer to a full 100% instead of that fake 100% that potentially was happening.
Yeah, that'll be great to see. I'm just excited to get it back in whatever facet that we get. Do you think everything's going to be, since it's going to be at Disney, it's going to be pretty much all on ABC and ESPN, if I can guess right?
Well, ESPN owns the Disney, right? So I'm sure
Disney owns ESPN. And
well, yeah, whatever. So yeah, I'm sure they would have something to say about it. But TNT always has some playoff games. So there's going to be that little give or take there.
Do you think we're going to be able to get every game? Like, or like we were talking about last week or the week before? Because we still haven't seen anything about watching. They haven't said how it's going to air.
Right.
No talks on that yet whatsoever.
Well, TV wants to show it because they've already lost revenue from these 3 months. So instead of showing cool runnings like ESPN is showing, I think tomorrow, they would much rather show an NBA game. So that's fine.
Hey, guy, you dead man.
But the question is going to be what DirecTV does and how they have a say, because they have basically every other game that's not nationally televised for themselves. So if all these games are being nationally televised, then DirecTV or Dish or whoever owns them loses a lot of money because people will just be watching on their ESPN instead of paying to go watch on Dish or Direct or whatever. So
yeah, it's going to be fun to see what happens, how it plays out. It's going to be easier, I feel like, to be able to watch all these games.
Unless they do it where it's on at the same time, like how March Madness does, where the Boston-Miami game starts at 2 on True TV, but then the Pacers 76ers game starts at 4. So you're back and forth on these two things, which they might do that during the regular season part, but I can't imagine that their playoff games are going to try to steal from each other.
Yeah, I don't see that happening either, but I hope we're able to flip back and watch multiple games, like we were in a normal night.
I hope it's like I hope it's more like Christmas Day, to where it's just back to back to back to back to back. I don't need to flip. Just show me all the games, commercial free.
Start at like 9 in the morning.
Talking. Yeah.
Have a 9 to 12, and then a 12 to 3, and then 3 to 6.
Exactly.
9,
exactly.
9.
All commercial free. Inside the huddle. I know they'd never do that because the coaches don't want to give out information or whatever, but I want to hear everything. I want them to be mic'd up.
Oh, you'll be able to hear everything without them being mic'd up.
Well, yeah, but they'll block out any strategic stuff. But I want to hear guys arguing. I want it to be close up. I want the cameraman to like stick it in people's faces. I just want everything now.
Well, I feel like even without that, this is going to be the most personable that we see these guys as actual humans on the court. In my opinion, we've both played sports. You can't help but notice fans and doing something for the fans. No matter what sport you played, what position you played, you always did something. You had to have done something just because that there was people there, whether to watch you or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Away fans trying to spoil. So we're going to be able to see without that little bit of makeup.
Right.
We're going to be able to see them actually performing and playing and just trying to play to win the game. I mean, I don't want to say that that's never the case. That's always the case when it comes to professional sports. They play to win the game. That's what they're there for. But I'm just excited to see how personal they get, how pissed off they get whenever something bad happens, how LeBron looks at a player when they take the free throw out when they should have put it right back up to steal the first game of the series. So I feel like if there's nobody there, if at that point in time when JR just dribbled out the rebound instead of putting it back up, LeBron flips his lid. LeBron goes off. He's cussing.
If that's like in a practice setting?
And has to be reminded that there's still cameras rolling, that this is still a real game, even though we're here alone in this practice facility looking gym. Like, the cameras are rolling, Bron. You totally just messed up your Blaze Pizza Market. I feel like if there's no fans there, they lose that conscious grip of knowing that, all right, there's people watching. And I feel like
then you get the whole Pat Beverly versus LeBron type stuff too, to where they might forget that people are watching there as well, and it could get pretty ugly. And as they continue to extend what they can and can't do without any fan interaction, that'll be pretty odd.
It's going to be odd. It's going to be weird. I'm looking forward to it. That's probably my favorite thing to look forward to, is how they cope with no fans in the stands and having to keep them competitive juices flowing. And I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm just excited for sports. And they're saying it's going to start The first of the month is now. You're listening to this, it's June.
Right.
So the end of July, they're thinking of starting this. That still feels so far away, man. And the new season starts what? It's supposed to start
They
October?
wanted to start Christmas now.
Oh, Christmas time?
Yeah. So they'll have a little bit off.
So we're potentially going to have sports happening for a year straight with really no breaks in between. I mean, we're not going to see baseball for a minute, but we'll have hockey. Hockey's going to come back, right? Hockey started?
Hockey already has, as far as I know we're not the end all be all on hockey, but they adopted a 24-team playoff. So what they did is they just dropped the 6 teams and they're starting the playoffs tomorrow or whenever they start. I think it's mid-July. But just all 24 teams are in the playoffs and they're going. So I don't know what the format is because 24 teams doesn't give you, right? Because that's 2 sets of 12. So somebody would have to have a bye week or something to make it actually work if it's just a
so they're going to have a competitive format, 2014 playoff setup, and it's going to be a round robin, which pertains
like the World Cup.
For the round robin is going to be for the seeding for the top 4 teams, and then they'll have a qualifying round for teams pretty much like playing in.
Okay. Well, let's actually take a break real quick because I actually wanted to bring up that World Cup strategy in the NBA as well. So it's cool that the NHL is doing that. But let's take a break real quick and let's talk about who we think is still our sponsor because we haven't heard anything. Maybe this quarantine has got them kind of dragging their feet. But for right now, we have the sponsor Manscaped, and they, of course, can help you out and make the most of your time together. Things are opening up. It's great. But I still, at least out here in California, there's not a lot of stuff open. So you got to stay clean. It's hard when you're at your house, never leaving your couch, at least for me, to remember to have good hygiene. But Manscaped makes it really easy. They help you out. So it's time to Manscape and chill.
For sure. And luckily for you, there is a brand like Manscaped. It's the only men's brand dedicated below the waist grooming and hygiene. And like Travis said, we're starting to get out, but we're still spending a lot of time at home. And if you have a significant other like me, the downstairs area really is on their mind a lot more than you would think when it pertains to the care and maintaining of your hygiene down there. This ball deodorant, I'm going to keep talking about it. I absolutely love it. Anti-chafing. It's great. It works very well, especially whenever you have your Manscaped boxes on at the same time. I'm like 15 for 15 and days wearing them, and
not in a row though, right?
No. Gosh, no.
That would be some good
deodorant. Like 60 for wearing the deodorant and it working, but 15 for 15 with the combination of the boxers and deodorant. I mean, I don't need to wear the boxers as long as I have the deodorant on. I haven't chafed yet, but the combination is great. It does wonders for your package.
Yeah, and like I said, we're starting to get out. I have found during quarantine that I will not leave my couch for hours. Now, I shower every morning. I do the deodorant. I do all that. But then I'll be on my couch from about 8 o'clock to about 2 p.m., and I'll decide to go somewhere. So that's when I'll just do the spritz. I told you before. It actually does. It's great because I don't need to re-shower. All I've been doing is sitting on the couch. But, guys, just sitting on the couch does not mean that it's all good down there. So I go and I spritz the toner. I think it's called toner, right? Yeah, toner. And it does its job, man. It activates the whole pH levels again. It gives you the little tingle spritz, and you're good to go, man. You get out there and take on the world, and it feels like almost like you just showered down there. It's great.
It really is great. And right now they have this Perfect Package 3.0 kit. Comes with a whole bunch of great stuff. It has the Lawnmower 3.0. It's awesome. When you use code NOSCRUBS at checkout, you get 2 free gifts. And the gifts are absolutely amazing. The travel bag we've talked about a lot. It's real leather. I tried to burn it. It wouldn't burn. And then the boxers you get for free whenever you get that Lawnmower 3.0 kit. What is it? Not the Lawnmower, the Perfect Package 3.0
Perfect
kit.
Package kit. It has those deodorants and the toners and things in it too. So Absolutely. And it is the perfect gift for your perfect package. So do yourself a favor, always use the right tools for the job. Like Sil said, head over to the website, get 20% off and free shipping with the code no scrubs. It's all one word, no scrubs at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using the code no scrubs. It's time to get out there in the world. So now more than ever, it's time for Manscaped because you're going to be sweating a little bit more once you get out in the real world. You're going to be closer to people again. Hopefully not too close because we still gotta be distant. But your partner, your body, and your balls will thank you. So yeah, I wanted to bring up this World Cup thing. I didn't actually know that the NHL was doing it. That's really cool. But someone from The Ringer, which is a way better not better, but more popular podcast site than we are. One of their writers wrote this World Cup format for the NBA, and I believe he said there would be 20 teams in his, 4 groups of 5. So you would take the top 4 seeds. It would be the Bucks, the Raptors, the Lakers, and the Clippers, and then reverse order for the other seeds. So like the Celtics would be in, I think, with the Raptors or the Clippers, whoever, but you would go the top 8, you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in their pools. And then the bottom left 12 people. I did quick math, but they would just be in a pool just like the World Cup, and it would randomly get drawn. And that's how you would do the playoffs, because you'd have the 4 groups of 5, or the end of the regular season. You do a round robin. Each team plays each team twice. That's 8 games, so you get into good form. Top 2 seeds make it into the playoffs, and any tiebreakers or seeding tiebreakers would be played based on regular season win-loss. So as long as the Bucks came out as the 1 seed in their thing, they would be the 1 seed, basically. So what do you think about something like that? Is that too much of a shakeup? Or do you think that that would be something that people could enjoy? Because a lot of people truthfully don't watch soccer. They probably wouldn't understand it. They would just be confused as to why the Raptors, Celtics, Rockets, and Thunder were all in the same group, So how do you think that would go?
I like that idea. You strip the conferences. Don't worry about that. It's time. Just let them play. It's been so long since we've played the season. The NBA is pretty much in the same as the NHL, how they were pretty much done with the season for the most part. Had a couple teams fighting here and there to get playoff push and try to get different seedings or whatever. Like the Grizzlies, they got to 8. They look to be coming up, trying to get to 7 or 6, because here comes the Pelicans fighting up from, I think they were in 11th seed and jumped up to 10th.
Right. And then, of course, Portland is there.
Yeah, Portland trying to do something to make the playoffs and bring something to their city. But I like that idea. I feel like the NBA and the NHL could definitely come together in some way and figure something out. I mean, it's 2 completely different sports, but at the end of the day, the playoffs are very similar in the way that they run. And the NHL has a lot of great ideas, and they let it be known that there's plenty of details to still be figured out. This is just kind of a basis start to get it going. But I like how they have their round robins, kind of like the World Cup does, kind of a seeding just for the top 4, and then you figure out the bottom, and then let's start the playoffs and let's see who can win this cup or who can win this ship.
That is really cool, because then you still have the playoff teams. The playoff format would look the exact same. Nobody would be confused. I really like it. Now, if that were the case, in a round robin type, let's just, for the sake of argument, assume that that's how it's going to be. And we'll have it'll be 4 groups of 5 teams playing each team twice. What sort of team do you think benefits from that scenario to try to make the playoffs? Is that a type where like the Rockets would be favorites because they would have that one game where you can't really plan for them, you just played somebody else, and that's to their advantage as opposed to a 7-game series?
No, I feel like it's going to be more for the teams like the Miami Heats or the Oklahoma City Thunders, who can on any given night really put on a freaking show, or on any given night could totally dud it up. just for the lack of superstars. I mean, Jimmy Butler's great. Chris Paul's great. What's the kid with 3 names over in OKC?
Shea
Gilgeous.
Gilgeous-Alexander.
Dude, he's freaking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Tyler Hero in Miami. But these teams who really pick and choose, they don't pick and choose, but really it differs on when they gel and
Right.
perform to the best of their abilities. I think that's going to be the best bet for them, because going up and facing a different, we're not getting off to these, like you said, the best of 7s. They can revamp and start the switch over again and probably pull out a string of great wins and do themselves a hell of a favor. And
Yeah.
I mean, but Miami was what, the 3rd seed?
4th seed.
The 4th seed, and OKC was down a little bit. But
They were like the 4th or 5th in their thing.
Those type teams, I think, are going to be able to soar in that type of structure.
And it would be nuts to think like this group of death scenario where you get, just for the sake of the argument, let's say the Bucks, because they're the 1 seed, I believe the Heat would be the 8 seed. So the Bucks and the Heat would be set in stone. Just imagine if they ended up, the rest of their grouping being the Dallas Mavericks, the New Orleans Pelicans, and the Houston Rockets, for example. And only 2 of those teams could get out. My goodness, there would be an uproar for one thing, but it would be hilarious. And because you'd have to face Zion, and on any given day, Zion could beat the Bucks, and even though the Pelicans aren't the better team, if they only get to play them twice, I think it would be exciting. I think it would be fun. I think I would enjoy it.
I definitely would too. I mean, as a Cavs fan, having nothing to give to the postseason,
I don't think the Suns will have anything to give either.
I would absolutely love it and watch all these fan bases get pissed off. But I just feel like with like Houston and Portland, who's clutch city, but they haven't really been as of late. Just the what am I trying to say?
I don't know.
The pressure to win every single night in the same atmosphere, but against a different team, really. Right. I don't know if the Houstons or the Trailblazers, those teams who really are an all or nothing team, can handle it.
And you got to think that the Bucks, the Lakers, the Clippers, those guys would still make it out. They'd still make the playoffs, barring some catastrophic thing. If you play 8 games, the Bucks and the Lakers, more often than not, can get a top 2 seed in their respective group. If they can't, then they would have been eliminated in the playoffs anyway. So it's not worth it to really argue. So I like that format. I think it would be really cool. So maybe they'll get it done.
I wish. We both know that'll never happen just because of the prima donnas that are LeBron James and James Harden and them guys who would just have a complete Twitter spill about how BS it is if they didn't advance.
If the Rockets didn't advance because they were in the same group as, say, like the Lakers and the Clippers,
yeah,
for sure,
they would definitely be in an uproar. The players would be in an uproar. Like, how are we supposed? You were supposed to win, bub.
Right, exactly.
That's it. Just win, and you're in. I love it. It would bring great action, great pressure that you don't really get in.
Until the Knicks went on some crazy run and somehow are hoisting the trophy at the end of it.
Wouldn't that be great if RJ just snapped and was like,
Air Canada comes out?
Yeah, should have been Rookie of the Year. His balls out with his left hand. That'd be great.
That would be. That would be awesome. So let's get it. It's going to happen. We're coming on. As far as right now, what are you thinking in June? Like you said, July is so far away, and I'm not talking about the NBA right now. But what sports are we looking at maybe in June? We've got NASCAR already. We've got MMA. We've got like a couple of golf things here and there. What sort of new sports, not new sports, but new as opposed to 3 months ago, are you looking at maybe getting to watch here in June? Anything?
Aussie football.
Are they coming back?
It's happening. Yes. Aussie football is.
I'm so surprised they even went down. I thought they would just be like, you know what? Nobody's allowed in Australia. We're going to keep playing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a podcast that I listened to, they talked about it. They actually got an American Australian football player who sounds Australian as crap because he's lived there for 4 years now and the accent's stuck. Nice. But he was on there stuff about a month or two ago, so that kind of got them interested in it like us. So now there's two sports podcasts out there that like Aussie football.
Yes,
But
I
he
would.
calls it Aussie rules football. He totally disgraces them
Well,
with
that's
that.
what it's technically called, I guess.
Oh,
But
really? Oh, I'm
it's
just an
called
idiot.
Australian rules football, but everybody just calls it footy or Australian football or whatever. But man, I'm fine with them being the only sport that comes back in June. I'll just binge watch Australian rules football for June, and then once July starts, I'll be ready to go. I'm trying to see. I don't see on their website where they're coming back. Come on, team. Even though Gold Coast is terrible anyway, we're losing our fans because they don't watch Aussie football, but you should. And you should cheer for the Gold Coast Suns because they need it.
Nah, the All Blacks, bro.
The All Blacks are a national team, bro.
No, not them. No. I'm talking about that All Black team that I like. I don't remember their team.
Essendon, I think, is your team.
Essendon, yes.
They do wear all black, yes, but they are
Yeah.
not the All Blacks.
I wonder if that's the team he's on because I'm pretty sure in that guy's picture he was wearing it was a striped one. Black and white stripes.
Yeah, they still haven't put on any schedules or anything on their website, but no, they say June 11th.
But yeah, we can definitely start seeing stuff trickle in. We have collegiate athletes able to return to a couple campuses here and there now, which we didn't think was.
I saw. That's awesome, man. UCF is coming back.
Yeah, we didn't think that was going to be possible for months, like completely. I totally gave up on fall sports, honestly, and in college.
Me too.
But there's hope, and the thing really with the collegiate level opposed to professional sports, there really isn't much leeway to change up the seasons. I mean, there's so many collegiate sports, and then you got the club sports that these colleges have to worry about scheduling on their intramural fields and stuff like that as well. Like, there's so much to collegiate sports. I just don't see how it's going to be possible if they can't figure out a way to adjust some of these sports starts and ends, like on a permanent type basis.
I don't know. I don't think they'll play, even if they play some college sports, I don't think they're going to play all of them. They'll play football because that makes money. They'll probably play basketball and baseball because those are the big other sports, but they're not going to do swimming. They're not going to be playing. The Northeast might play hockey or something because that's not across the entire U.S. anyway. But if only student athletes are coming on to campus, do they count these club teams as student athletes? So, for example, our ex-roommates played on the UCF Ultimate Frisbee team. And it was a real Dogs of War. It was a real team, but I don't know that the school would consider that a sport that is part of the school. Does that make sense?
If they wanted championships, they would support it.
Hey, they made it to the Elite Eight when we were there.
Yes,
Shout
sir.
out to Dogs of War, but I don't think those types of games, even though you play other colleges, there are national championships and things like that, I don't think that is what the schools are going to consider. So they might consider those big 6 to 8 sports that they play, but they're not going to consider the little guys.
Yeah, so we kind of might need to wrap this up soon.
Oh yeah, I'm planning
Starting
on
to. Apparently, they're like looting in the freaking center that baby girl works in.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. We of course steer clear from political stuff, but we did want to just, I don't even want to call it a shout out. Shout out's wrong, but say that we've been looking at stuff, man. We do. There's people that are going out of their way. I saw Jaylen Brown went down to Atlanta. People are stepping up, and the sports world, which does concern us here on this podcast, the sports world is jumping in big, and I like to see that. I like to see all these sports people jumping in big.
Shout out to Steven Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Going, being heard. I'm definitely with the voices being heard.
Absolutely.
The extracurriculars and stuff. You do what you do. I'm not going to say,
I'm not here to judge.
Yeah, you do what you do, but it's getting crazy, man. We just remember everybody who's life has been lost to a cop, George Floyd, Mike Brown 4 years ago. So many. The Trayvon Martin got shot down by the George Zimmerman. Aubrey a couple weeks ago got shot for or in February, actually. The videos just got released a couple weeks ago. Aubrey just shot by civilians. Just all the nonsense, all this, the victims for just complete asinine reasoning. It has to stop, man. It's 2020 now. Like I see, like racism is taught. It's not just kind of, you don't just get it like if you get bit by a mosquito, oh,
right,
I got the racism. No, like it's something that's taught, it's something that's cultured, and it's 2020. We're in America. There's so many different cultures and people of all walks of life and all parts of this world that it's just ridiculous to where it's still in the day of age where the African American has to get worried about being shot by a cop, not even shot by a cop, being killed by a cop
right.
in any facet. It's absolutely retarded. I'm sorry I used that word, but it's annoying. It's despicable, man. It's absolutely despicable, and it's time for change. And I get it. There's been so many cases over the years, and like they say, it's not happening more frequently. It's just being recorded nowadays.
Right.
It's time for change. Change isn't going to happen with people just sitting around silently protesting. They've been doing that since Martin Luther King, and nothing has changed. So I kind of get the spike in extracurriculars, but I really hope that the higher ups listen, because it's not going to get any better. We're on day 5 now, and it's trickling all over the country. It's not just in the big cities. It's here in West Palm Beach. They shut down the interstate, and now they're in Palm Beach Gardens miles away, looting up a plaza full of shops. It's crazy.
I want to side with you on the fact that you said I do support the cause. I support the why behind all of these things. I think all lives matter. Obviously, in this specific situation, Black Lives Matter. And there's a reason that we say it that way, because it's been shown that throughout the years, it seems like authority doesn't think they matter. And we're both white here. I mean, we didn't grow up in suburbia. We grew up in a mixed town. And now I appreciate that, because I've had friends of every single race, which is great. But even with that, we can't know at all what the people that are actually behind these activities are doing or thinking or feeling. We can feel with them, but we'll never feel it. And I do have a story. One of my good buddies just reminded me of this today. He's a Mexican American, and we were out in his car. He was driving, and we were doing donuts at like 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. because we're idiots, we're dumb kids. And we got pulled over by the cops. So we stopped, and the next thing we know, there's a gun in the driver window pointed right at his head. And he got taken out. He got arrested, all this stuff. I didn't get anything. The cops literally told me, don't worry about this. This isn't about you. Like, just chill. And I never even thought twice about it. I was just like, heck yeah, I'm so glad. Like, I didn't get anything. But like, it's so crazy that could that have been just because he was Mexican American and I'm white like I am? It very well could have been. If I wasn't there, could it have been worse for him? That's what he texted me today. He was just like, I'm glad you were there, because it could have been worse. He's a colored person. And while I'll never understand what people are thinking, I got to see firsthand the dichotomy of myself as opposed to a colored person. And I would never ask for that to happen. And he didn't even get anything bad other than just handcuffed and whatnot. So it's scary. It's a scary situation. And hopefully it starts the wheels of change. Nothing's going to change overnight, but it's way too late. It's 2020, man. It's way too late to be starting over every single time something happens.
Yeah, it needs to be a new normal. Just like it's just crazy to think, like last week with my incident that I went through, it could have been completely different if the color of my skin was different. And it's really irritating to think about, and it pisses me off, man, just because of like, it doesn't matter. people are people, and I get like all lives aren't going to matter until Black Lives Matter,
Right.
and everybody needs to get that. And it's not just everybody understanding it and realizing it. It's these people of power who are able to just go against what uh, most likely the majority of Americans feel, is that we're all a human race. We're all one. You see so many people. I've seen so many signs. There was this one lady, an older white lady, who says, "I'm 65 years old and I'm still protesting this shit." Like, a
Right.
lot of people feel the exact same way that all these angry people that are showing up and protesting are right. A lot of people that are sitting at home watching this stuff feel the exact same way. A lot of them being white, a lot of them being
Hmm.
Mexican, a lot of them being of Asian descent. There's so many different people in this country who feel the exact same way that these people protesting do. And it's fuck anybody who feels like they can take their power and use it in a horrible way against somebody just because of the color of their skin. That's absolutely ignorant. It's 2020. We fought a freaking civil war over a fucking 100 years ago
Right.
for this whole thing, and it's still occurring. I gotta stop talking about it. I'm getting pissed.
And I do want to say, we're going to end it, but I do want to say that we also know that there are good cops. Obviously, we're not saying that. My soccer coach my entire life growing up was a very good cop, Coach Dominic Piscatello. He's actually retiring this year, so props to him. He's a good one. But what we're saying is police and authority isn't something where 90% can be good. Like, sorry, all of them have to be good. We can't, if 90% of pilots are good, what are we going to do with the other 10%? No, it's unacceptable, right? No, it should be unacceptable in authority as well. So we're not trying to call out police at all as far as individuals. We're trying to call out the system, and the system needs to be fixed and it needs to be better. So let's continue to move that way. And if you don't have anything else to say, I'm ready to end this bad boy. So
Yeah, no, I'm good. Just let's remember George Floyd and anybody. There was just a kid in North Carolina that was killed because he was deaf and he was trying to sign to the cops. It was a white kid. Doesn't fucking matter. Another person was killed by a cop because of their use of power, and you got to have better regulations. I saw on a feed today somebody was screaming at the cops like, "How are you guys able to just join this stuff without a degree?" And like you talk about with pilots and stuff, you have to go through so much training just to be able to fly a plane by yourself.
right.
So much training. But to be a cop, you just have to go through a couple months of their police program, and then bam, you're
And
a
then you
cop.
don't even have to stay in shape, which I know this isn't about being in shape, but there's
Yeah.
just no
You don't have-
regulations
you-
after you get in.
It's the same thing. You don't have to continue going to
Yeah.
get brushed up on stuff. In most businesses, most people are in, their company will send them on a retreat to learn more
Every
stuff.
year I go on it.
Yeah, see, and make you a better worker. But that doesn't happen with the police departments, and it needs to. It has to. It has to change. We have to get better as a whole, and it starts with people in power. And it's in our documents that we can overthrow this government, and it's getting pretty damn close. And I hope it changes for the better before then, because we will not be able to recognize our big cities here in a month or two if it doesn't.
Yep, and it's going to set us back many, many years as far as technologically and in industry. So hopefully it stops before it gets to that point. But I hope it doesn't stop until the actual underlying issue gets a move on, though. But continue to watch sports. Sports are coming back. Australian football is coming. We already got soccer. We already got that. So not take your mind off of it, because your mind needs to be on it. But there are these other things that are coming to maybe help us, maybe ease the pain a little bit from that sense. So as always, be a stud, not a scrub.